Here are the top stories for today, June 18, 2021. The IATF says that testing and quarantine protocols for those fully vaccinated in the country will take effect on June 22. The government increases the annual overseas deployment cap of health workers from 5,000 to 6,500. A milestone towards better government services. The number of registrants for Step 1 of the Philippine Identification System reaches 2 million. And the Tourism Department forecasts that the country will be a safe, fun, and competitive destination within the next 2 years. Good day, I'm Marita Muaje. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, testing and quarantine protocols for fully vaccinated individuals in the country will be implemented next week, June 22. In a statement, Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the IATF-EID made the decision in consideration of the full rollout of vaccination certificates. Under the IATF resolution, fully vaccinated individuals leaving the Philippines are required to carry their vaccination card verified before their departure. This will also be presented to a Bureau of Quarantine representative for re-verification upon their return to the country. Fully vaccinated individuals who have been inoculated in the country are also mandated to present their vaccination cards before boarding, and they need to spend 7 days in a quarantine facility upon their return. They will also undergo RT-PCR testing in case they exhibit COVID-19 symptoms within their 7-day quarantine. Meanwhile, the testing and quarantine rules do not apply to individuals who receive the COVID-19 vaccine jabs abroad. Just like the Bakuna Nights in Quezon City, more workers in Valenzuela City can also get jobs in the evening. This as the local government dedicated the Pasolo Elementary School as the vaccination site for those who belong to the A4 group. It is open from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., subject to scheduling per company. Meanwhile, it is business as usual in Pasig City as all government services have already resumed their full operation under the general community quarantine with restriction status. Fully vaccinated senior citizens are now allowed in public places. Food establishments can operate at 40% seating capacity for indoor dine-in and 50% for outdoors. Beauty salons, barbershops, and nail spas may operate at 50% seating capacity, while gyms and other fitness centers may open at 20% venue capacity. The vaccination program in the province continues as more jobs arrive. Chris Mundo will give us an update on the status of the inoculation drive in the different locations in the country.
The province of Capiz receives 2,340 doses of Pfizer vaccines from the national government. The vaccines are intended for local government units in the province. Likewise, it also received the 11th batch of Sinovac jabs. The 1,200 doses are to be allocated for the remaining frontline health workers, senior citizens, and adults with comorbidity. Meanwhile, Negros Occidental received its first ever supply of 1,950 vials, which is equivalent to 11,700 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. The allocation is part of the shipment received by the national government through the COVAX facility. The provincial government is currently conducting vaccination for A1, A2, and A3 groups. In General Santos City, nearly 30,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered to eligible individuals. Dr. April May Makilang, the immunization coordinator of the City Health Office, said they have utilized a total of 29,576 doses of AstraZeneca and CoronaVac vaccines since the start of the inoculation last March 8. She said they are also fast-tracking the utilization of the remaining 370 doses of AstraZeneca before it expires by the end of the month. And in Zamboanga City, some 59,587 residents have been inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine. Of the number, 45,550 got their first dose while the remaining 14,037 received their second dose. The city government targets to inoculate 70% of the population. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
Officials and personnel of the Department of Transportation received their first dose of COVID-19 vaccine at the East Avenue Medical Center in Quezon City. DOTR Undersecretary Artemio Tuazon Jr. said 516 were inoculated on the site, while 258 are scheduled early next week. Other employees have already availed the free vaccine in their respective localities. To date, the DOTR said 282 of their personnel have tested positive for COVID-19 since July 2020, with 3 remaining active cases, 276 recoveries, and 3 deaths. The Labor Department is giving away bicycles and 5,000 pesos worth of load for workers who have completed their COVID-19 vaccine. The bicycle units come with a helmet, raincoat, water bottle, thermal bag, and Android mobile phone with a 5,000 peso load. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello said an initial 2,000 bicycles will be provided to beneficiaries, 1,000 of which will be distributed in the National Capital Region, while the other 1,000 will be distributed to its regional offices nationwide. He said the project aims to encourage more workers to have themselves vaccinated. Measures are in place to contain the spread of COVID-19 in the central part of the country. In Bacolod City, the local government mulls the filing of cases against individuals who tested positive for COVID-19 but refused to be isolated at the designated facility. These individuals reportedly declined because they feel comfortable recovering from their illness at home. However, local officials reminded them that staying at home may put their other family members at risk of contracting the same disease. In Iloilo City, the provincial government decided to extend the implementation of the municipal quarantine since Iloilo has been under modified enhanced community quarantine until the end of this month. As such, only authorized persons outside of residents coming from Iloilo City and the province will be allowed to pass through quarantine checkpoints. And in Tacloban City, at least 27 health workers from the Philippine National Police and Bureau of Fire Protection were deployed as volunteers in hospitals to augment the existing health workers in their hospitals. Tacloban has been tagged as a priority for deployment since most of the medical facilities in the city have been experiencing a high rate of bed capacity occupancy of coronavirus patients. More health workers are allowed to be deployed abroad as the government has increased the cap from 5,000 to 6,500. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III earlier sought the increase on the cap to allow more health workers to work abroad. The deployment cap was implemented amid the national demand for health workers due to the pandemic. Malacanang meanwhile assured that they will look for sources of funding for the back pay of government nurses. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said the concerned executive departments will comply with the Supreme Court ruling increasing government nurses' salaries even if the administration has yet to find sources of funding for their back wages.
Alam niyo po, effective June 1 naman yung memorandum ni Executive Secretary na ipatutupad nila ang PACI's decision on the minimum salary grade of Nurse 1 all over the Philippines, no, sa mga pampublikong mga hospital, no. Na pagdating naman po sa pondo, sa prospective, dahil yan po ay desisyon ng Korte Suprema, hahanapan po yan ng pondo. Kung wala pong pondong mahanap sa existing budget, then baka sa supplemental budget.
Still to come, face-to-face classes soon. A lawmaker says this is only possible once 70% of Filipinos become fully vaccinated. And the Finance Department says employment in the country is starting to return to pre-pandemic levels. Details ahead. This is the PNA Newsroom.
The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
You are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic, because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work.
Senator Richard Gordon said face-to-face classes amid the COVID-19 pandemic can be implemented once at least 70% of the country's total population have been vaccinated. Gordon highlighted the need to achieve herd immunity and ensure that everyone is safe and protected from the virus. Gordon cited the experiment by Serrana, a town in the state of Sao Paulo, Brazil, where local cases dropped after a mass vaccination for COVID-19. According to a report, almost every adult resident of Serrana completed the 2 vaccine shots between February and April. He said that through an effective vaccination program, Filipinos could stop the spread of the virus and break the chain of transmission. Gordon, being the chairman and CEO of the Philippine Red Cross, has been consistently promoting vaccination as a protection and efficient solution to various diseases. Over 2 million Filipinos have registered for the online Step 1 registration of the Philsys National ID. Step 1 involves the collection of demographic information. An online portal has been operational since April 30 for a more convenient process. Step 2, or the biometrics registration, must be done personally, as it will entail iris and fingerprint scans and front-facing photographs. Meanwhile, the Philippine Statistics Authority warned that fixers and scammers may take advantage of those interested in registering in Philsys. These unscrupulous individuals charge certain fees, allegedly to help them register online. The PSA reminded the public that the entire registration process is free and that the Philippine Post will not ask for a fee for the official delivery of Philippine ID cards. The Department of Labor and Employment in Central Visayas said it has released over 15 million pesos in livelihood and cash assistance to Cebuanos, including overseas Filipino workers in the province. According to DOLE 7, Secretary Silvestro Bello III handed over the assistance on several occasions to the beneficiaries of the Tulong Panghanap Buhay sa Ating Disadvantaged Displaced Workers Program, livelihood aid recipients, and OFWs. In Medellin town, around 37 associations benefited from the livelihood aid worth almost 11 million pesos. In Madridejos, DOLE released 1.8 million pesos that covered the salaries of 464 TUPAD beneficiaries, more than 400,000 for the salaries of about 100 TUPAD workers in Bantayan, and another 1.2 million for the salaries of 302 TUPAD beneficiaries in Santa Fe. DOLE also released a financial assistance of some 37 beneficiaries under the COVID-19 Adjustment Measures program, amounting to 185,000 pesos. Over 13,000 workers in Capiz also stand to benefit from the Tupad program. For the second quarter, they would be allotting 62.3 million pesos for the Emergency Employment or Cash for Work program. The program is implemented for a minimum of 10 days and a maximum of 15 days. They are paid 395 pesos based on the existing daily minimum wage in Western Visayas. They are also provided personal protective equipment and covered by accident insurance under the Government Service Insurance System. In our business news, the Department of Finance points to stringent implementation of measures against the spread of COVID-19 as the key for the continued reopening of the economy and to help address the employment situation in the country. This as employment went back to pre-pandemic levels earlier this year after more than 8.7 million Filipinos lost their jobs in April 2020 because of the pandemic. Employed individuals reached 43 million as of January 2021 from 42.5 million during the same period last year. In an economic bulletin released on Thursday, the DOF said the health risk posed by the epidemic must be managed effectively and efficiently and its transmission arrested. It said inclusion of economic frontliners in the priority groups for vaccination is an important step in protecting the population and the subsequent easing of restrictions. Up next, the mother of slain football athlete Keith Absalon calls on President Duterte to put an end to communist terrorist groups. And a park is set to rise as a new tourist destination in Antique. Back after a quick break. Stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. The Department of Social Welfare and Development has distributed over 510,000 pesos worth of financial aid to 10 recipient families of Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. Each family received a transitory support package of 10,000 to 70,000 pesos. These recipients are from the towns of Alangalang, Barugo, Burauen, Calubian, Leyte, Mayorga, MacArthur, and Tabango in Leyte Province. They arrived at the Tacloban Airport on May 28 when the government resumed the BP2 implementation. The BP2 program is an initiative of the national government created to address the congestion in Metro Manila's urban areas. The program encourages the public, especially those in informal settlements, to return to their home provinces. The DSWD may also provide livelihood settlement grants and transitory shelter assistance if the family beneficiaries do not have homes and relatives in their hometown. The mother of the slain Far Eastern University football player is appealing to President Rodrigo Duterte to put an end to communist terrorist groups. Vilma Absalon, mother of student-athlete Keith, said the CPP-NPA should never be tolerated by anybody. Absalon said the peaceful resolution to the local communists' reign of terror would be her son's lasting souvenir for her and Masbateños. The mother also pleaded to the communities in Masbate to be vigilant and report the presence of NPA rebels to authorities. The NPA claimed responsibility for the June 6 attack in Barangay Anas, Masbate City, where Kit's 40-year-old cousin Nolven also died. The Absalon family rejected the written apology of the CPP-NPA as they called for justice. Meanwhile, National Task Force and local Communist Armed Conflict spokesperson Lorraine Marie Badoy lambasted anew the NPA, saying communist rebels view indigenous peoples as expendable and worthless. This after 3 NPA rebels died in a clash with government troops in Surigao del Sur last June 15. Karapatan Group claimed the 3 were IPs from the Manobo tribe who were merely tagged as NPA members. Badoy condemned the recruitment of IPs into the NPA using their training camps masquerading as schools. She also mocked efforts of CPP-NPA and the fronts to extol the 3 victims as their martyrs. Badoy called for support in the government's anti-insurgency efforts, stressing that it was the only way to prevent more IPs from suffering heinous crimes under the NPA. The provincial government of Antique will meet with stakeholders on June 23 to discuss the proposed construction of the Sunset View Park, an upcoming tourist destination in San Jose de Buena Vista. The park will be built beside the new building of the Provincial Environment and Natural Resources Office in Barangay Maybato Sur along the beach with a view of the sunset. As part of their preparations, the local government will move 25 informal settlers to the provincial relocation in Barangay Mabatag in Hamtik. The construction of the 2-story Penro building is ongoing after 10 informal settlers families in Barangay Maybato Sur were relocated last June 4. During the building's groundbreaking ceremony on March 17, Environment Secretary Roy Simato said they envisioned the site of the project to become a tourist destination. The building with a sailboat design is a reminder of the historical landing of the Bornean Datus along the shorelines of Antique to establish their first barangay. The Department of Tourism foresees that in the next 2 years, the Philippines will be positioned as a safe, fun, and competitive destination. The DOT said it would develop more tourism products that focus on nature and culture while continuing its safe travel campaign in every Philippine destination. Under its tourism response and recovery plan, the agency said its trust is focused on protecting of jobs and safety of tourism stakeholders, supporting the recovery of tourism enterprises, and rebuilding confidence and growing demand in the domestic and foreign market. The DOT said it would explore all means to facilitate the gradual recovery and reopening of the tourism industry. It is also banking on strong partnerships with communities and visitors to drum up interest in tourism. The Department of Health in Bicol has urged the public to volunteer and become donors to ensure an adequate supply of blood. The DOH Center for Health Development is raising awareness on the importance of blood donation in saving lives. Potential blood donors will be examined based on their weight, blood type, and physical condition, including possible illnesses or recent activity. On June 14, the DOH celebrated World Blood Donor Day with the theme Dugo Yanihan, sulong sa pagtulong ang dugong Pilipino. Fitness enthusiasts walked 1 million steps from June 1 to 14 in a show of support to keep their bodies healthy and eligible for blood donation. Meanwhile, the Bicol Medical Center held a web presentation and simultaneous mobile blood donation in Gaidza, Camarines Sur on June 14. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. The IATF says that testing and quarantine protocols for those fully vaccinated in the country will take effect on June 22. The government increases the annual overseas deployment cap of health workers from 5,000 to 6,500. A milestone towards better government services. The number of registrants for Step 1 of the Philippine Identification System reaches 2 million. And the Tourism Department forecasts that the country will be a safe, fun, and competitive destination within the next 2 years. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muaje. Have a good day.